Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to Major 5. 4 teams remain going into the Championship Sunday of this event, and Vegas Legion have been confirmed out of the World Championship. The 8 teams are locked in. Vegas didn't quite make it in the end. Loads of reaction to this one. Did Surge deserve it? Vegas didn't quite do enough. What next for Clayster? So many questions. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Challenges was lit today as well. I came along to watch Doug because everyone was coming along to watch Doug. See how we got on. And honestly, their team was making a serious run. Not sure as of recording if they've won their next match, but they were guaranteed top 6 as of a couple of great wins actually. This one as well was against Neptune, Spark, Prolute and Mohawk. Very solid team. And Doug was going big in this one. They won this series 3-1. And Doug, I didn't think he was going to get as animated as he did here. I was glad to be able to capture it on film right behind him when Doug got a nice little 2-piece. And that was enough to get them over the line. So yeah, Doug's bringing the entertainment value. And honestly, with Boston getting top 12, apparently he's not an official substitute for the team, so it might be tough, but man, Doug is like the only good thing about Boston right now, I'm not gonna lie. Let's dive into the Vegas series then, the first one of the day up against the New York Subliners, and I said earlier today, my heart said Vegas should win, but my head said that New York was Subliners should have enough to get the job done. They win the game one, a big one as well. I believe it was the Embassy hardpoint where Vegas are very good. They lose it. The game 2 search and destroy, they had their chances. It went all the way down to, well actually it went the distance here because Hydra versus Standy, an interesting 1v1 when, you know, Standy's on the defuse. By the time Hydra calls in the cruise missile, there actually isn't enough time to get the kill on him, so that's a bit of a fumble there, but it didn't matter anyway. They go up 2-0, and then a control right. I mean, when Vegas go down 2-0, it's very hard to see them coming back. I got a bit hyped though because they won this first round here with a nice offensive victory, but the Subliners quickly bounced back, and I've been really impressed by New York lately, right? We'll see in the next series they play later today. They are, to me, kind of the gatekeeper team right now. I don't think they're quite able to be consistently on the level of a FaZe or a Thieves or a Toronto or even an OpTic in theory, but they can. When any of those teams drop the ball, they're there to pick up the pieces, and that's what Subliners have done. Is their team enough to win an event again? If they do, it would be incredibly impressive because they won at the start of the season. It's super rare that a team does that, falls off, and then makes the return back to championship glory. They've got the potential though, because watching Hydra play is like watching the best player in the world play. Just watching his POV is absolutely absurd. The way that he drop shots in gunfights, he always knows what to do, always knows where to look. And yes, Kismet, you know, Skies and Priest all played very well, and Priester especially, I thought, in this particular series and also in the next one later on in the day. But they were really compelling force right now, the New York Subliners. Another top 4 finish for them guaranteed. Could get even better when they get to Championship Sunday. But Vegas, they bow out of Major 5. They tried their best. They took down Seattle Surge. They made a good run in the qualifiers over the last several weeks. I think they'll really look back to where they squandered that 5-2 Game 5 lead against Florida before. That would have been 10 more points guaranteed. They could have gone further than that. And look, in the end, they just fell short by about 20 or so points from where they needed to be. So yeah, Legion, unfortunately, they didn't make it. I didn't think they would, to be honest, a while ago. Ever since this storyline was a thing, I was always thinking on the side of, well, the other teams should be able to get over the line. And as they say, our year has concluded. Want to express gratitude to all the fans. And it's just been a great story for Vegas. Unfortunately, they couldn't quite get over the line, right? I mean, we saw previously last year with the New York Subliners, the fact that they were able to make that crazy run. Crimsix got it done. I'm sure Clay felt like he could lead this team to a similar direction. But look, they put their team together at a point where this team is a top 8 team in the world. I think right now they are better than the Seattle Surge, but just over the course of the season, especially early on, with some of the roster iterations, the Prolute iteration, the 2-reel iteration wasn't good enough to put up as many points as they needed at the time, and that's kind of come back to bite them down the line. To as you know, Temp says, GG's, that's the season. Glad to be a part of the team and put up a fight almost, but unfortunately not quite. And this was Clayster's perspective because we don't know what the future is for Clay. I still think he's good enough to play in this league. We know that last year, we think at least this season, he was potentially going to get onto Boston. That didn't happen for various reasons. He went to Vegas instead and has completely turned around this franchise. Fan favourite team, organisation people like to watch and rooted for to succeed, largely thanks to Clay. And look, stats, obviously his stats aren't always fantastic, but in terms of what he brings to the team in addition, inside and outside of the server, it's very important. But as he says, the season's over, no playoffs for us. Sorry to everyone I let down and disappointed. We fought like hell, but just wasn't enough. Dug our own grave with some of their results early on in the season. He also says, I believe he lost his sister a few months ago. I think that was why the Boston thing fell through at the conversations at the time. So as Clayster says, this year has been the worst of my life by far. Tried to escape everything by playing COD and that turned out bad too. Just wanted to do some legendary run for my sister. I can't even make that happen. Just don't even know what to do anymore, beyond upset and disappointed. We know that Clayster's a really emotional character, right? And, you know, when things don't go his way, he's, you know, he's going to be harsh on himself. And that's just the way Clayster is. Not looking for pity or sympathy. Appreciate all the love, but just been a disaster for me lately. Going to take some time away, try and figure some stuff out. So, yeah, hopefully we get to see more of Clayster. Obviously, a lot of love for him as a player, what he's done for this team over this season, what he's done in Call of Duty history. And for him to say that it's his worst year, it's sad to witness. But hopefully he can come back stronger, because I still think he's got it within him. And maybe he's on a contract with Vegas. He gets extended for next year. Even if he's not, I think other teams would benefit from his acquisition. So hopefully it all works out for Clay. But in the end, wasn't his greatest performance. I don't really think it would have mattered that much anyway, because Sublanders were today playing like the significantly better team. Hydra dropped to 1.56, Clay at a 0.58. And honestly, there was a lot of slammage going on today. Seattle Surge, though, that confirms them making it to the World Championship. Do they deserve it? I would say probably not. So let's be perfectly honest, right? They got slammed by Vegas just yesterday. Embarrassing stuff, absolutely. They're not playing well as a team. Maybe they'll put Gwyn in. Maybe they'll try something else, because that most certainly was not working. But Pred will be at Champs. I'm happy that he's there. And fundamentally, Vegas on LAN couldn't get results against teams they'd need to beat to put up a fight, right? And Surge, they've always, you know, with the talent they've got, have something somehow in their back locker sometimes. We haven't seen it lately, and we might not see it come Champs. But Vegas, to me, didn't do enough to prove that they did deserve it. Whenever they played a team that they would need to beat at Champs, such as a FaZe, such as a Sublanders, if they wanted to win, they got 3-0 smoked, right? So, you know, fundamentally, I think Surge being there is the correct result, but I would have liked to see Vegas make the run, because I really don't feel like Surge deserved it, to be honest, with their performance recently. Couple of other speedrun series here. So, Minnesota Rokkr. This is, I don't know why I picked Florida to win this, to be honest, right? Because Florida, it's the absolute classic, isn't it? They come to the tourney, they take a big scalp. They took New York scalp a while ago, they win a big series. This time it was OpTic, and they've certainly done that before, and then they decide to get bodies. Now, they actually didn't play badly, I thought. Mutinies were okay, but Rokkr were just a little bit better, and they are, again, going to be a potential force. We saw back at Major 2, right, the last one I was at, FaZe versus Rokkr in the winners finals, and that was a crazy Game 5, round 11. I'm pretty sure that FaZe won, and then they won the tourney. We might have a similar story coming up soon, because these teams make it again. Rokkr with a nice run so far, all the way to top 3. Their changes paying off big time. Not particularly impressed by the victory, just because they played a dodgy Florida Mutineers team that, you know, they played great against OpTic, don't get me wrong, but they couldn't really replicate that, and there were a few moments that went astray for them, especially in situationals. And yes, Brack had some good numbers in the series, but over the course of the day, his impact, especially in the Search and Destroys, to me, wasn't really there. Great performance all across the board, though, from Rokkr. First really good series here from Attach was nice to see. The next series, though, this was a banger to be there for in person. Toronto versus FaZe. Always a good match. The last time it happened on LAN, Toronto won. I think it was the winners finals, maybe at Major 3. Back at Major 2, they got slammed Toronto in like 30 minutes. And I was wondering what was going to happen this time around. I was on the desk kind of talking about it, and I felt like FaZe would win, to be honest, but I wanted to go with the Toronto story because, you know, the brethren, they look like me and all this type of stuff. So I went down that route, but yeah, didn't work out. It nearly did, though, right? I mean, they were super close here to taking this to a Game 5. Now, would FaZe have lost 2 searches in a series? Probably not. And I will say with FaZe, I mentioned it when they played London and when they played Vegas the other week. I was like, their respawn definitely looks better. I know people were saying, oh, you know, they're only playing London and Vegas, so it's not a big deal, but definitely watching their respawn in those online games the last couple of weeks of the qualifiers, they'd clearly taken a step in that respawn nodes, and they've now replicated it against a team like Toronto. They do lose the search. Very rare they lose an embassy search. Every time they've lost, I think they've played it 15 times. They've won 12, and the other 3 they've lost in round 11. So that goes to show how good they are at this map. But, I mean, look, it's a 3 respawn victories for FaZe. You don't see that particularly often for this FaZe team so far this season. The crowd was hyped. Honestly, the crowd was like super lit this weekend so far. I know the stream doesn't always pick up on that, but in person it's really loud. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be a part of, to be honest. So it was great to see the crowd get this victory, but the control was an absolute smoke show. I mean, FaZe decided to take it to Expo, which I thought was kind of a little bit surprising, but they completely bodied them. It was honestly, vintage FaZe to me is when they smoke you 3-0 in control and Simp has like a 1.5. That's what FaZe were doing a couple of years ago, and that's what they can still do on occasion. Maybe they can do it more than on occasion with this, what we saw today. Honestly, ever since Simp dropped that 42, he's back in superstar mode. That's the way I see it, at least. The end of this hardpoint as well, Ultra will feel bummed about this because they had a great chance. They got over towards the final hardpoint where the kind of all the snaking fest goes down. They didn't push out one side. They let FaZe get some pretty crazy spawns, it must be said, but I think Ultra kind of dug their own grave somewhat. FaZe break in, they get all the kills, and they clutch up a crazy end to that game, actually. That was one of the games that FaZe of old, FaZe maybe even last year, would probably lose. They lost a lot of games in those situations and then would either win or lose the game 5. And Slasher has been lights out so far. Like, all the crap that Slasher has taken over the last several weeks, I mean, so far he's got the highest KD on their team so far in the tournament. It probably won't last, right? He's going to get overtaken, you would think, by some of the other guys by the time we get to the Sunday. But, I mean, yeah, Slasher's been showing why he deserves to be on this team and why FaZe are absolutely the team to be right now. The winner of this series was going to be favourites, guaranteed. I'd love to see a Toronto versus FaZe final. We'll get into that tomorrow. This also puts Slasher now at 6th all time. It's quite a way to go for him in terms of most top 3 placements in COD history. It's the OpTic Dynasty plus Clayster here. Then you've got Aches at 30, and then aBeZy and Simp 28, 27 respectively, and they're kind of leaving Arcitys a little bit in a dust as well. So the entire FaZe team is in the top 10, and Arcitys, their previous man. And look at these numbers. Hicksy had a rough one. He is prone to having a rough series. It can happen with Hicksy. That's the way it goes. But usually if he plays badly, the other guys will step up. Wasn't really the case here, just because the slaying was monumental. Cellium with a 1.4. Simp, to me, has been the real standout. aBeZy's doing aBeZy things, but Simp playing as he is now with their new hardpoint system, where he doesn't have to get so much of the hill time. He can play a bit looser, play how we know Simp can play. They really are back in business. So a scary sign for the rest of the league, it's got to be said. They are peaking. Other teams are slumping at this time. They are peaking at absolutely the correct time here, the Atlanta FaZe, and they will go into tomorrow as the clear favourites for the tournament. They might not win it, but again, another top 3 guaranteed for these guys. It's absurd the consistency they've delivered over the last several years. Number 1 seed again, and if they were to win this event and they were to win the World Championship, for example, it really would open the door to exactly where these guys sit all time yet again. So that's a conversation for another day. Then though, we got the Florida Mutineers versus the Subliners. Another absolute speed run here. Sky's 1v2. Brack hops on the bomb with a few seconds left. Somehow Vickle takes a couple of bullets, dies immediately with only 40 HP on Skies, and he clutches this up. That was embarrassing, but let's be honest, it wasn't going to matter. Cap still had a great series. I thought he really played his heart out here, but I really don't think that their performance against OpTic was going to last, and it didn't. Very impressive again by Subliners. They go into Sunday as a threat, absolutely guaranteed, but at Florida, they've done it again. Beat OpTic, get out of there within about 15 minutes. And as we saw with the Los Angeles Guerrillas, it's highly possible, as I see it, that Florida Mutineers, we might never see them again. The rumour has it Miami Heretics or whatever is going to be a thing next season. If that's the case, might not see some of these players again in the league, might not see this organisation, this branding in the league. They had some great moments over the last several years, but this season wasn't quite it for them, apart from the occasional upset they could deliver on Messrs, OpTic and others over the last several years. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. We'll discuss that final Toronto Thieves series tomorrow morning and all the other storylines that are continuing. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.